And now I invite you to enter into a spirit of prayer and meditation as we deepen into our service, and I will share our opening words for this morning. Earth Mother, Star Mother, you who are called by 1,000 names, may all remember we are cells in your body and dance together. You are the grain and the loaf that sustains us each day. And as you are patient with our struggles to learn, so shall we be patient with ourselves and each other. We are radiant light and sacred dark, the balance. You are the embrace that heartens and the freedom beyond fear. Within you we are born, we grow, live, and die. You bring us around to the circle of rebirth, in the circle of rebirth. Within us, you dance forever. Our chalice words come from a great maker of peace, Mohandas Gandhi, as we celebrate today the original intention of Mother's Day, which is a day of peace, and we hope to invite that spirit of peace within us and among us. So I'll share these words. If we are to reach real peace in this world, and if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with the children. It is possible to live in peace. Our service today is devoted to Mother Earth, Grandmother Earth, Unchi Maka, and we are drawing to the best of our ability and integrity from Wiccan and Lakota traditions today, which are both embodied within this multi-faith, multi-spirit congregation. So our hope is that you will participate with us in inviting this spirit of peace and just a chance to take a break from all the things that are out there and in here, to the extent that we're able to do that. Just let go of the worries and the struggles, or at least be with ourselves in them. So our hope is that this can be a genuine time of peace and kindness as we just bask in the love and the presence of Grandmother Earth in Lakota tradition, Mother Earth in Wiccan tradition. So there'll be a time after a while when we will pass out little pieces of paper, which cleverly are Post-it notes, and you'll find out why in just a second, because I'm going to tell you right now. We're going to pass out those pieces of paper to you after a while, and we'll invite you to share a word or two about what you are grateful for. But we'll get into that. You don't even have to start thinking about that yet. And then our intention is to gather up all those pieces of paper that are cleverly Post-it notes. I will run to the kitchen, and when I come back, we will all have made a poem together, because I'll arrange them in some kind of chaotic order. It'll be a found poem, but it'll be like we put the pieces there and then found them. And then so our closing words will be the poem that we create together. If you're willing to do that with us, that will be our invitation.
The four elements, air, fire, water, and earth, sacred because they sustain all life, are cornerstones of the goddess tradition, as they are of many earth-based spiritual traditions worldwide. And so we have the four cardinal directions: east, mind, thought, vision, inspiration. South is fire, energy, passion, courage. West is water, linked to the flow of our emotions, our sensuality, our intuition. North is earth. It stands for the body and for the forces of manifestation into the physical world. Center is spirit. It's the central place of the mysteries that cannot be described or defined. It's the place of change and transformation. The circle itself is an icon of wholeness. When the elements and all they represent are in balance, then so are we.
So as our direction holders find their seats again, we would just like to invite you, as the east represents air, and the south represents fire, and the west represents water, and the north represents earth, to just take a moment and notice those elements right here and right now. The air that we breathe, the fire that burns within us and here palpably, the water that we can feel pumping through our bodies. There's just a little bit of it in the air always. And the earth under our feet, under our bodies, in and of our bodies. We don't need to go anywhere else to be alive with these elements of our planet.
In his book, Memories of a Lakota Woman by Charles Trimble, he writes about the practice of tiole, which means roughly going to someone's house with the hopes of getting something to eat there. He tells about a woman who regularly showed up at their house when he was a child, and she would show up at mealtime. And as the meal would end, then she would pull out a dish towel where she would place her watecha, or her leftovers, and to take home for another meal. And sometimes his mom would lend a woman a bowl, which then allowed her to return the bowl for, you guessed it, at mealtime. So Charles and his brother asked their mom one time, "Why do you always feed this woman? You know she's just mooching off us." Mom's answer was simple and memorable: because she's hungry and she doesn't have anything to eat at home. It was simple. She didn't have to say any more. She didn't have to. That said it all. It was like Mom took it as her own personal responsibility to feed this poor woman. It was a lesson that stayed with Charles for life, and he was sure that with his brother as well. It's the Indian way, the Lakota way. His mom also had him and his brother share their Christmas presents, too, with children who may not have received any gifts. He states, "Our family was poor, but we learned that regardless, we should always share." Years later, Charles Trimble met the granddaughter of the poor Tiole woman who would come to his family's house, and he didn't tell the granddaughter about his impatience, but he got to tell her how much he had grown to love her grandma. And it gave him some joy that perhaps his mom's generosity helped this young woman too in some way. She was there at the University of South Dakota, earning her master's in business administration. When I read this little bit on his book, it reminded me of my own family's traditions. We had a picnic table, and our family was noted for having the first picnic in the spring, coats on, and the last picnic in the fall. And I can't tell you how often we'd be eating our meal when somebody would pull up to our yard, and they'd be invited to join us always. We seemed to have enough food somehow, and one of the tricks Mom taught me was that if you're having soup, then you just add a little bit more water to make it stretch, make it go further. And whether our visitors took part in the meal or not, everyone moved down the benches on the picnic table, and us kids were sent to with our plates to finish our meal out on the lawn. And it's just what we did. And before I was born, when the other girls were younger, one of our many sets of grandparents would show up for meals on a regular basis. And these are stories that were told and retold, but never, I don't remember ever being told with any sense of malice. It was more with a chuckle and the idea that they were welcome anytime, but they almost always came at mealtime. Another auntie came to stay with us during the really cold part of the winter, and Angie and my grandma were really good friends, and it would have been supremely unkind not to invite her to stay with us. I also have extra sisters because my sisters had friends from out in the country who needed a place to stay when they were going to during the high school, when high school was in session, so they would stay with us. And like Charles Trimble's mom, my mom and Graham and so many others followed this way that is the Indian way of passing on wonderful customs and those special values like generosity, which are so important to the people. As he states, we didn't sit at her knee for lessons. Her actions were her lessons. We learned them by watching her. How does this relate to the connection to our Unchimaka, our grandmother Earth? I'm not going to go into detail about the science of how we and Unchimaka came to be here on this day. Instead, let me say that all along, our Unchi worked really hard to create a world that she could share with us. We have been welcomed, and the expectation is that the tradition of welcoming and sharing what we have continues beyond the time we are here. It is our responsibility to take care of what has been given to us. It is our responsibility to take care of what has been given through tradition, through generations and generations of ancestors. It is important that we know and understand what it means to willingly give to someone without expectation of return, to visit with them and to know they are doing well. Returning that care to Unchimaka is key to our center, to our balance, to the directions and all the gifts we receive through them. Unchimaka is the first and forever mother.
In that spirit of respect and appreciation for this great grandmother, Earth, Unchimaka, amazing friends, inner peace wisdom, feeding hungry people that have no money or place to live, community. Some of us are grateful for our minister in a variety of ways. Thank you very much. Grandmothers available to raise grandsons. Music and singing to my children learned from my mother. The source of life, which lives within me and you. And from those who came before, we have learned love isn't so pure and innocent as we idealized when we were children. Yet as an adult, we've learned that it does endure and it does grow. And since a new door has opened, I can find light, happiness, and love flowing towards me. We are grateful for experience in nature, so we don't have to be afraid of spiders or other formerly scary things. The gift of forgiveness of self and others. We have learned love is patient and kind. And in and among it all, we have learned to breathe.
I will be gentle with myself, I will love myself. I am a child of the universe, being born each moment. I will be gentle with myself, I will love myself. I am a child of the universe, being born each moment. I will be gentle with myself, I will love myself. child